Hey there, Candoers, and welcome to today's featured product announcement. Today we're going to be talking about how you can use the style guide to make Candu content look exactly like your brand, so that it can fit seamlessly on the page once you install. To get to the Candu style guide, you'll start by going into any piece of content that you've created and opening the style guide setting on the top. You'll see when you come in that there's foundational text, foundational colors, components, and containers to get started. I recommend starting with the foundational text and the foundational colors because those will come through in all of the other elements that you set up. So let's say we want to start with heading 1. By default, Candu just has a simple serif open sans font in here. You can either select from any Google font or System UI font here, or if your brand uses a proprietary font that you have set up, you can add that here. You can also set up the colors. By default, these will pull through from the foundational colors you set up, but you can also customize them to be brand colors. So for instance, if you want a bright blue heading 1, you can set that up here. You can also go through and set things like size, line height, font weight, spacing, all of the things you need to make sure that these fonts look exactly like your brand. Hit Save Style, and we'll move on to foundational colors. By default, we have some Candu brand colors in here, but you can update these to anything you want. So let's say, for instance, if my brand had a bright pink, sort of fuchsia colored as our primary color, we can set that here. You can add hex or do it through the color picker, hit Save Style. And then you'll see when we open the components library that that color that I just set up in foundational colors pulls through to the button and the badge. Obviously, buttons have a lot more customization than just one simple color. So you can also click into the button and you can set the color, but you can also go deeper and set things like hover effects, focus effects, and finally on-click effects. You also have the option to set the padding. So if your buttons are normally a little bit smaller than what we have here, you can update that to make sure that your buttons look exactly the same. You also have the option to change the border. So if, for instance, you have more rounded buttons than what we provide here, you can update that by increasing this number. You'll see it's a little more rounded now. You can also make it completely square by setting the border radius to 0. You can also add a border by adding border width and setting that color here. So if you wanted to have a button with a border, you can do that. The same goes for badges. Badges are effectively the same as buttons, except they're not clickable. So they're really more of a visual element to get your user's attention. And you can also set up your container styles. So things like the hover effects on cards and other things can be set up down here. The nice thing about the style guide is that, 1, it carries through to all of your content in the editor, in preview, and when you've published. So I've updated that primary button, and you'll see if I go back to content, my header I just updated pulls through. And if I change this button out to be my primary button where I updated the color, that pink color will already be pulling through. When I preview and publish, this will happen as well. The other great thing about the style guide is that it's universal to all of your content. So you can set it up once and you don't need to go back to your brand manager or your internal style guide to find those hex colors or those fonts ever again. It'll carry through to all of the content that you create in Candu. The other great thing about this is if you update your styles at some point as a brand as a whole, you can go into Candu and update them once, and then you're done. All of your content will stay consistent. Try it out. Let us know what you think. Thanks so much.